along to read with me and my friends some really awful pieces of fanfiction. Together we have seen stories that most people wouldn't even believe. I've shown some of the stuff that we've read to people who like to read bad fanfiction, and most of them won't even believe what goes on in the shit we read until they see it for themselves. We scrape the bottom of the barrel. And recently we've even started moving into scraping slightly above the bottom of the barrel, in the middle of the barrel, if you will, with, past sins and pony psychology. There's something about pony psychology that's interesting. There was a time when I really liked fanfiction, where I actually was this close to making a show that was just going to be about showing off some of the best damn pieces of fanfiction that I had read. Really bring out the best. That came about because I was in a period of time where I was just reading these excellent stories. It started with Past Sins, which was only okay, and I've since cooled on it a lot, but then there was Followed Equestria, there was Project Horizons, there was the first part of Memoirs of a Reality Jumper, which wasn't that bad. I actually liked that part before it started falling apart. I hadn't got to there yet. I read Lost and Found was great. I still recommend that as an excellent story. But I started liking grimdark. I started liking stories that had a bit of grimness to them, horror stories. I've always been fascinated with horror. So I started searching through the 5-star and the 6-star EQD rated grimdark stories and adventure stories. And that's when things started going downhill. But there were 3 stories that killed it, that ruined the magic, that turned me around from loving fanfiction to wanting to do something like Let's Read. Though it would still take me a while before I'd eventually get to Let's Read. The 3rd story was The Immortal Game. That was the nail in the coffin, but by that point I was already starting to get tired. The 2nd story was Pony Psychology, and that was the story I read through and finished it and thought to myself, how the hell did so many people like that? How the hell is that popular? But there was one before then. There was the one that sandblasted the sheen off, that took all of the goodwill that Followed Equestria and Lost and Found and all that had built up, and in one fell swoop removed all of that protective fiber and ensured that every other story that came after that would be getting my full critical attention, that I would no longer be giving the benefit of the doubt in the way I had been. A story that made me hate Trixie, that made her go from an antagonist I really liked to my least favorite character in the show. A story so bad that it got me to put Rarity from the bottom of my list on main 6s all the way up eventually to number 1, largely out of spite. I mean, I like her now, but the catalyst was spite for this story. That story is called Sunset. And I just found it. See, I spent quite a bit of time after it, driving it from my mind, trying to forget all about it. And then when eventually it came around to doing Let's Read, I wanted that to be the first. I didn't like Pony Psychology. I wanted to go and do Pony Psychology. I didn't like The Immortal Game. The Immortal Game was the first one I just started reading with high expectations and then quit, just dropped it. But this was the one I wanted to pull out behind the shed and give it a good old-fashioned beating. The one I wanted to make pay for what it had done to my ability to appreciate fanfiction. But for years, or at least a year, it's only probably been about a year, for a year, I couldn't find it. I searched high and low, I checked every tag I could possibly think of. I couldn't find it. Then, just recently, someone in the comments asked me about, the portrayal of rarity in certain stories. And this was the one that really, I started liking rarity just to spite this author and the way he portrayed rarity. And that made me start thinking about the story again, and talking about it, and telling him how much I hate this story. And I told him, if you find it, I'll put you on the show. I'll put anyone on the show who can help me find this. I want that story. And then I decided, I'm going to give it one last look myself. I'm going to go through on EQD, use their fanfiction archive, and then look for any story with a Grimdark tag. I mean, any story. Every single one of them. Story by story, description by description, checking chapters just to double check. There are a lot of stories I had to get through. But I found it! And I have not read it in a year. I don't know. Maybe I misjudged it. Maybe it's not that bad. But I'm gonna find out. I am going to find out. And you're gonna find out with me. This isn't Let's Read. This isn't with all of our friends together. This is not the fun, silly adventure time. No. This one is personal. This one's for me. So, I'm going to do some prep work. I'm going to look it over. But look forward, people. Because the sunset is coming. And riding into it is going to be me. On a motherfucking atomic bomb. I'll see you there.